These videos are becoming very random. There have been a lot of movies that I've been planning to make videos for. Actually, mostly video games. Actually, I've been planning so many. I was gonna do a video review for Batman. I was gonna do one for Uncharted. In fact, I did make video reviews, but I made them back to back of each other, and I sort of felt like both of them were pretty bad because I kept repeating myself, saying stuff that really didn't do the games in question justice. And since then, I've just been playing so many video games and watching so many movies. I've been wiped out, and I know, fucking dude talking about how, oh, I've been playing so many video games and watching so many movies. I'm pooped. No, but it's been hard to get into anything to review because I haven't felt strongly enough about anything. I guess that was it. Batman it was a good game, but it wasn't as good as Batman Arkham Asylum. Uncharted 3 is pretty much Uncharted 2 in the desert, and it's not as good because it's not as impressive as it's the same quality as Uncharted 2. Only Uncharted 2 was better because it came first, and I like snow more than I like desert. It's a little more impressive. Saints Row the Third was not as good as Saints Row 2, so I didn't really feel like I couldn't get a grasp of how I was going to make that review without just directly going in and spoiling the story and saying where my personal flaws with the game were. And Skyrim, what could I say about Skyrim? Skyrim was I've played 68 hours of Skyrim thus far, and I still feel like everything that needs to be said about that game has probably been said, and I won't be able to say anything new about it. The movie I mostly planned on making a video review for was definitely Breaking Dawn. Because I come from not a unique perspective, but among a lot of critics and a lot of people that make these kind of reviews, they haven't read the book. They're just going on how terrible the movies are, and they don't have any comparison to do. They haven't read the book. And I have actually read all the Twilight books, and I was going to make a review for Breaking Dawn, but you know what? Breaking Dawn was fucking boring, so I just didn't do it. I was going to do it in the first couple of days, and then I didn't get that done, and then I just decided that, you know what? I might as well not do it, just skip it completely, and I did. And I'm kind of glad I did, because I don't think it would have turned out that well. You want to see a great but flawed review, because he doesn't really know what he's talking about sometimes. Watch the Spoony Ones review on SpoonyExperiment.com. It's an hour, I think it's an hour and a half long, like him and Linkara and Juwario on video on telephone conference. Spoony getting drunk and talking about how horrible the movie is. The movie is it's a boring movie that has no plot really. You can say. You can basically explain the entirety of the plot of that movie pretty detailed on the back of a postcard, and I think that's all I need to say about Twilight. But this brings me to the movie. This is why this is so random. Movies I've covered, like Tintin, Fright Night, Straw Dogs. I've been trying to talk about movies that are at least sort of relevant, or you can see why I would care about. Which brings me to the movie that I think a lot of people are immediately going to dismiss. Happy Feet 2. That's what's brought me in front of the camera after a month-long hiatus, is Happy Feet 2. And I'm going to explain right away. The first Happy Feet, I love. I love the first Happy Feet. I love it a lot. I was heavily bullied when I was a little kid. I had pretty much no friends. I learned at an early age to stay by myself because that's the way you don't get hurt. And having fun with yourself can work really well as long as you know what you're doing. It was a very lonely thing, and it caused me a lot of psychological trauma that I would say still resonates through my entire personality and being to this very day. Those days have indeed created who I am, for better or for worse. That's why I connected with this movie about a bullied penguin who is outcast simply because he's different from the rest. in my case, it was that I don't even know where it started. I think it started with something that I didn't have a father, and I had a very bad temperament because had a hard time getting understood because I spoke with an accent. I could not speak proper Swedish, and I couldn't pronounce certain words, and that of course made me uncertain, and when stuff went wrong, I got angry, which led to more people making fun of me because it was fun to see me get mad, and eventually I got fat because of it, and, well, I'm not supposed to tell my whole life story, but you get it. Bullied, felt like crap. I identified with a stupid penguin played by Elijah Wood. But yeah, I really love the first movie. I'm also an environmental nutball. I donate money to Greenpeace. I subscribe to like the Sea Shepherd Society's Facebook feed. I love like The Cove, Shark Water, all these documentaries about saving the planet, and I don't eat fish at all because of that. Like even before, I think Happy Feet was actually the thing that made me change my completely commit to stop eating fish that is not like land, like not ecologically land grown fish. But yeah, like I don't eat fish at all because the one resource, the one the one animal like resource we still use that is taken from the natural habitats of the world is fish, and I don't want to contribute to like the outfishing of the ocean. I don't want to contribute to that. I therefore do not eat fish at all, unless as I said, unless it's land farmed salmon. That's the one thing I eat. Eventually, once in a while, like once every quarter of a year. But yeah, Happy Feet had a big part in helping me really cement the fact that I was not going to eat fish, even though I'd already stopped pretty much by then. So that movie had a really big impact on me. But the one thing I remember saying to my friends, I went to see that movie 3 times. I think I brought with me several, like 2 different friends, and then I went to see it by myself once. And I saw it with my mother. It was 3 times. I went to see it by myself, with my mother, and then with my friends. But anyway, point being, I love this movie about these penguins, and it made me stop eating fish. And the one thing that I remember saying to my friends after seeing it was, I love this movie so much, I would want to see a sequel, but at the same time, I don't want to see a sequel because it would probably ruin what was so good about the original. And when Happy Feet 2 was announced, I was enraged. I'm like, why are you making it? Especially because of one thing. I was like, why are you making Happy Feet 2? Brittany Murphy is fucking dead. That was the one thing that made me feel like, stop it. One of your lead characters is dead in real life. It's like, oh, you replaced her with Pink? Go fuck yourselves. And, you know what? I think they realized that even though Pink can really hold a tune and knows what she's doing, I think they realized they didn't want people to heavily commit to the Gloria character again, because she doesn't really get that much screen time in this movie. This is a Mumble Son movie. But I have to say right away, this movie surprised me in a good way. Maybe it's just one of those weeks, because like I think it was Tuesday, I got a copy of I was waiting for a copy of Super 8 in the mail, and then I get the mail, and I'm like, oh fuck yes, 3 different envelopes with stuff I ordered as Christmas presents to myself. It's like, yes, one of these has to be Super 8. Oh no, this is a Justice League animated movie. Okay, I don't remember what the second thing was. Like, okay, that's not it either. 3rd envelope, this has got to be Super 8. The Smurfs. I'm like, oh fuck, why did I buy this movie? The Smurfs is going to be awful. And it was the same thing with the Smurfs. I immediately thought it was going to be terrible somehow. Enjoyably terrible, but I thought it was going to be terrible. And then I was surprised to find I actually thought it was okay. Don't take that as me thinking that the Smurfs is as good as Happy Feet 2. I definitely think that Happy Feet 2 is a better movie. Just saying that I had preconceived ideas about what the film would be, and because of that, I enjoyed the finished product more than I thought I would. Happy Feet 2 is, well, I was afraid that because it's a sequel, it would pretty much do what Kung Fu Panda 2 did earlier this year, be more or less heart-filled copy of the original. And I honestly think that this film manages to sort of like you know, walk around and just sort of like take that landscape a whole lot easier than Kung Fu Panda did, and Kung Fu Panda 2 did, which really stumbled over its own inside jokes, but still trying to keep Po a friggin' idiot, even though he's now supposed to be this Kung Fu master. And by adding the son in Happy Feet 2, they actually do have something to work with. Whereas Mumble was completely... Whereas Mumble had problems getting like respect and love from his father, especially openly, this movie sort of has the exact opposite problem. Here it is, Mumble is overly protective and overly loving of his son, and the son, who doesn't feel the dance in him, has a hard time like just grasping how to look up to his father figure, and like since they're so different. And I don't know, like there are definitely parts of this movie I don't like. In fact, I was sitting there through the movie, and there were different things I was just thinking like, this is stupid. I don't like this at all. But when it came down to it at the end, I really liked it. I'm just gonna try and sum things up, and then maybe go through a brief plot spoiler thing. First of all, I read a Swedish review for this film where they said the 3D was non-existent. I didn't think so at all. I guess it depends on where you're sitting in the theater. I always think that I almost think that reviewers, and I guess I'm almost saying the reviewer did a good job, because the reviewer, she only mentioned in the last sentence, oh, by the way, the 3D is crap. But I almost think maybe reviewers shouldn't even point out if the 3D is good or not, especially because here in Sweden it's kind of been working like this for the last couple of years, is that less and less movies are even getting original language tracks here. For example, Arrietty, The Borrower, the Borrower adaptation, had one Japanese screening a day. Its first, I think, 2 weeks of screening. And it was in a theater way out, by the IKEA in Stockholm, and that is way friggin' out in the middle of nowhere. They had one screening of it at 6 o'clock every day in that theater, and that is a chore. I wanted to see that movie so badly. I still think that if I saw Arrietty, that would probably be my animated feature of the year. But I wasn't committed enough. I didn't have time. I had work to do. Had they shown it in the middle of town, I would have gone to see Arrietty. But now I'm waiting for a Blu-ray release somewhere so I can see it, because I could not be bothered. But that was even lucky, because Arthur Christmas came out here last week, and Arthur Christmas does not even have an an English showing. It does not have an English track showing. And Happy Feet 2, I didn't even think was going to have one at first, but they did add one in the last, at the last minute, and I think it's going to be around for 2 weeks or something, and then they're just going to take it away. You never have a choice of going to see a movie in 2D if you're going to go see the English version. They don't have the money or the time or the space, whatever, to show movies in 2D here in the original language track. That's why I saw Tangled 7 times in the theater. 7 times it was 3D, because there was no 2D screening. Rio, 3D screening, there is no 2D screening. Kung Fu Panda 2, same deal. None of these movies, the Smurfs did not have an English showing. That's why I bought it instead, because I couldn't go see it in the theater. Other people would illegally download it. I'm a fucking idiot, so I bought it. You get my point. You have to go see it in 3D. So I felt like even if you point out 3D in a review, it doesn't really matter, because some people, like yours truly, don't have a choice. I'm not gonna go see a Swedish version of a Swedish version of an animated film. I wouldn't do that if my life depended on it. Okay, I totally would, but that would be the one exception. I mean, say if Arrietty had come out here in English instead of Japanese, I'd gone to seeing that. At least that's Saoirse Ronan. I could deal with that. I can deal with cute Irish girl. I cannot deal with Swedish girl being the voice. But you understand what I'm saying. I don't have a choice to see it in 2D, so why does a reviewer even have to point that out? I know the majority of people are going to go see it in Swedish, but reviews should probably stay away from the 3D aspect if they can, because it's supposed to be judging the film on the merits of the film alone. And again, I thought this reviewer was wrong, because since the 3D is so based on where you're sitting in the screen, like in the room, sometimes 3D sucks and sometimes 3D is great. I thought the 3D in Happy Feet 2 was actually really good. As I also heard people say that Captain America's 3D was bad, and I thought it was the best 3D I've seen all year, probably next to this and Tangled. Simply because of the fact they're not doing these, poke-in-the-face moments like Fright Night tried to do, or like Drive Angry. They're just trying to flesh out their world, and that's really good. I guess to just get to the movie, the animation was fantastic. I mean, they've obviously learned. That's the best part about any sequel to a movie they've already made, is the fact that they have learned the tools. They know how to animate certain things. The snow animation here is better than it was in the original, even though the original was top notch. Like the fluffiness of the penguin kids is better than it was back then. Where it feels like they can pour on more when they want to. I don't know. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about the original. I think the original was almost perfect when it came to all that. Maybe the little things that were missing there are better here. It's like taking the jump from Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 3. And okay, maybe that's a little too harsh, but you get what I'm saying. Toy Story 2 was already such a leap over Toy Story 1 that when you did the jump from Toy Story 2 to 3, it was mostly that they expanded on it and made the scope much bigger. Not really, even though the animation was a whole lot better. It was mostly because they changed the scope and allowed the environments around the characters to evolve. And that's kind of what Happy Feet 2 does. Whereas Happy Feet 1 kind of felt like they had set backdrops, and then they had the characters and like the snow effects move around in these backdrops. It was kind of like the camera was a lot of static, and I actually prefer that. But I'm trying to give the movie credit for being better, like technically, and it is. This movie zooms around a whole lot more. The camera work is a lot more active. It's less like just like sets and more like actually trying to engage you in the entirety of the world. And I guess it kind of works in a lot of ways. But again, I still prefer the original, but maybe that's just me being nostalgic. But since most reviews are negative towards this movie, or at least sort of meh, I'm guessing I'm not the only one, even though a lot of people probably didn't like the first one to begin with. The voice acting is pretty good for most cases. Some of the kids are a little annoying, but no one really sticks out as bad. They do their jobs. The kid that plays Mumble's son, Eric, can get a little weird at times because I'm gonna have to get into that when I spoil the movie. I don't want to but let me just say that sometimes he's almost gaga goo goo, can't really form his sentences perfectly, and sort of has the same voice that Mumble had when he was a kid. And then sometimes he really becomes articulate, and it doesn't really make sense how he can make that switch. And it kind of feels like, I don't know, it's a little weird. I'm disappointed, and I didn't even realize this until the movie was over, but they don't even mention where Hugh Jackman and Nicole Kidman's the parents of Mumble went. I'm guessing they're dead, or are they dead? Are they just in the background and they don't care to show them? In fact, I would have preferred to have them just see a shot of them sitting on a rock somewhere just so we know they're around. Because, let's face it, Hugo Weaving's still here, and his fucking Noah was like ancient in the first movie, and he looks just the same. So that would mean that if Mumble's parents are dead, they must have died very terrible deaths at the hands of some sea leopards or leopard seals or something. That's terrible. Elijah Wood does his job. Robin Williams, again, walks that very, very hairy walk around being annoying and funny. The best addition to this voice cast is the least, like, that's this movie's problem in a way, is that there are so many more comedic characters than there need to be. Hank Azaria plays a Swedish or Danish, or like, I don't know even what country. I guess I say Swedish because I live in Sweden, and his name is Sven, and Sven is a Swedish name, and he speaks like this, and he's played by Hank Azaria, and it makes no sense because Swedes do not talk like this, but he talks about how it is in Svenland, and let's do it the Sven way. Yeah, he's a puffin that goes around talking sweet, like with a Scandinavian accent. And I don't know, he's okay. Like most people in the theater thought it was hilarious. I'm mostly laughing because I'm tired as crap. And I'm almost more laughing at the fact that they thought it was that funny, because I so didn't find him funny. No, the two funniest characters that got by far the most laughs. And for my personal bill, it's not because of the fact that their humor was good, it's because of the people that were playing them. There are two krill in this movie. You know, the little shrimp that like blue whales live off? Like a whole lot of animals, especially big whales and stuff, live off them. Krill. They're named Bill and Will, and they're played by Matt Damon and Brad Pitt. And I'm like, what the are they doing this so just like Michael Caine with Cars 2, they can just say, well, I made a kid's film, so they can just show Maddox and, oh god, I'm supposed to know what Matt Damon's daughter's name is. It's like not Rosita, but it's Rosemary, something like that. You know what I'm saying. Like, are they making did they agree to this just so they can say they made a kids movie for their kids to watch? And again, these two characters fill no fucking function in this movie whatsoever, almost. They add a little thing at the end just so they can have them in there, and like it's like Scrat from like the Ice Age. I was thinking that through the entire movie. These two characters are just comic relief. They're there. They're going to add some stupid hook. I'm not really even spoiling this so much, just saying that there's a hook just to sort of justify them being in the movie. I almost would have appreciated it if they hadn't even tried, because it's just friggin' hilarious to see Brad Pitt and Matt Damon. Just picture them in the studio making this stupid as crap dialogue, and it's just hilarious. Crap, hair in my mouth. Yeah. It's just great, even though it's totally bad in some ways. Like the humor did not really work on me that much. There were some occasions where I actually did laugh out loud, but like my row, they were freaking going crazy. Like there was a guy on the row behind. He was gasping for breath when these two were acting like idiots, and I'm like, really? That is probably the most serious. Like, and there were a lot of people like that. I'm like, what? So what? Does that mean that Happy Feet 2 is the funniest movie I've gone to see in the movie theater this whole year? Because I don't get it. People were laughing like crazy, having a great time. And I was pleasantly surprised, because I was just enjoying the film, trying to just take in the story and the editing and just look at everything like, you know, for what it is. I think the girl next to me even glanced over at me a couple of times because I was sitting there looking like this. I think she was like, oh my god, this son of a bitch next to me, he doesn't have a soul. What the fuck is he doing here anyway? He must hate this crap. Because I was just sitting there like being all analytical, like, I didn't like that. I like this. But again, people were loving it. I was just sort of like, I liked parts of it, but I was mostly trying to soak in the atmosphere of a fun theater with people having a good time. Because it's so rare you get that from a movie where like you can feel like the audience around you is having a good time. I guess that's maybe just because my choice of like comedies and stuff I've gone to this year have been movies that aren't comedies but are just funny, like Abduction. Like, god damn it. That was probably the best cinema experience of this year. Sitting in this packed little room with people, and everyone is like, it was like being on Survivor. You know that everyone there knows that you're in it together, and if you're gonna get through this, you better all try to love each other while it lasts. And this was just, Happy Feet 2 was just fun for the sake of being fun. Yeah. The music picks are a little random. I guess you have to say that about a movie like Happy Feet, where music is such an important part of it. But I can say it like this: we got to see a trailer for Alvin and the Chipmunks 3: Chipwrecked, and that trailer showed more random use of music. That I think it made it a little easier for me to accept the fact that all of a sudden they're penguins singing "Sexy Back" by Justin Timberlake. because at least I could go back to that fucking Alvin and the Chipmunks trailer and think, well, at least they're not singing "Whip My Hair," but saying "Whip My Tail" instead, because that's so much funnier. It was a little more acceptable knowing what the alternative was. And really, how the fuck have they gotten to 3 Alvin and the Chipmunks movies? I don't get that. I mean, I get it, money, and children are stupid, but still crazy. I don't know if I really should do a plot analysis. I mean, this movie does, like the first one, try to have an environmental message. The first thing you almost see right away is that the icy areas are looking a little soggy, and obviously you realize that's because this movie's goal is to try to teach people to try and prevent global warming as much as possible, which is actually a message that is equally as important as not draining the oceans. And I appreciate it. I don't think a lot of people are going to pick up on it enough to care. Just like a lot of people probably didn't even care about what the first movie was trying to say, but I really enjoyed it. This movie works too when it comes to that point. I don't know. I don't know what else I'm supposed to really say. I like Happy Feet 2 a whole lot more than I thought I would because the plot worked. I think the problem is, and I guess this is the point where I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilers. I'm not going to go through the entire plot because, let's face it, I'm too tired. Like, my eyes are, like, I'm having a hard time keeping my eyes open. Let's see. I feel like I'm drinking an entire bathtub full of water. Well, I'm gonna get into spoilers here, like mild spoilers. I'm not gonna try and spoil the entire plot, but I kind of feel like the whole thing where Eric is supposed to be, where it becomes like basically Mumble trying to fight to keep his son's attention, that's a plot that's been done a whole lot more. I mean, say what you want about the first Happy Feet, and I thought the first Happy Feet is kind of like Super 8. It's one of those movies I really, really like. It has a heart that very few films manage to accomplish keeping throughout the entire film. But, just like Super 8, I feel that the ending was a cop-out. And this movie, there's an over-sentimentality and an oversimplification to how the final act plays out, and how everything fixes itself. And I feel like, saying that, this movie's even more flawed because even though this oversimplification, it kind of felt unique. It wasn't that I don't know a single other movie that had like basically a big political debate rage and have that be the conclusion of the film. But the whole, oh, Dad, I have a different role model than you, and you're going to keep fighting this entire movie and be jealous because I have a different role model. That's been done in everything from some goofy cartoons, and it's just a thing that's been done a whole lot more, and therefore the movie has a harder time like keeping its identity. The thing I think this movie lives off of is the fact that I love the characters from the first movie already. I even like Robin Williams, who in a lot of movies is freaking annoying to listen to, and he's okay to listen to here. I really like Mumble. If anything, I'm glad to see Mumble again. And honestly, I have to say that, except for, say, probably Rio, this is probably my favorite animated movie of the year. It's on par with Rio, but I have to give Rio the little gold star in the corner just for being an original property. It's an original story that, again, just like Happy Feet, I would like to see an expansion on. But I kind of wish this is where Happy Feet ends, because now you cover the basic two things you can do about a South Pole film: fish and global warming. Kind of feels like that's where it has to end. There's not really a whole lot more you can do. But the movie is 10 minutes shorter than its predecessor. That means it's an hour and 40 minutes long, and I guess you say it's an hour and 30 minutes long after if you take away the credits or something. And it's filled with a vast variety of music, and I especially have to say that there is a particular great scene, which is pretty much the end scene. So where they, of course, because all these movies have one song they have to have in the end. This movie has David Bowie's "Under Pressure," And it is gloriously well put together. It has a good pacing. Like they bring in a unique sort of like twist to it that really works. It has a great scope, as like with the camera, as I said. It has a great scope that I really like. And it's a really well put together music number. The problem is that this movie never until that point gets up to Boogie Wonderland in the first movie, which was perfect. I found that's a perfect moment. But that movie also did have a really great ending. So that movie had several. The first movie had several like musical numbers that felt great. Even the one where like there's no other musical moment in this movie I really thought that even came close to Mumble standing alone as a kid tap dancing to Stevie Wonder. Like it has this one moment that I really thought was awesome, but except for that one, there isn't really anything else to latch onto as great musical numbers. And I remember the one thing I almost made this video entirely to discuss. And that is something I know that the Nostalgia Critic has pointed out several times. Not that I needed him to point it out to me. I've been thinking about it a lot myself already. This movie never shuts up. That's one of this movie's biggest problems. Like the thing that has made almost every fantastic like animated film in the last couple of years great aren't the moments when a lot of crap is going on screen and there's yelling and loud noise. It's the subtle, quiet moments. And this movie doesn't have any. This movie never stops to let you take in what it's about. Like, there are very few moments, even when the music is, or like the characters are just taking it easy and just letting the atmosphere soak in. I've been watching the original Happy Feet on my TV, like, which is like behind the camera, basically. And that movie has several moments. There's several moments where you just get to take in what Mumble is doing. When he's in the zoo, when he's like that's not a quiet moment even, but it is a quiet moment because he's secluded. When he's listening to Brittany Murphy's final song at the graduation party. There are very many quiet moments in the original movie. You take that with almost every single Pixar movie that has a fantastically like sad moment. They're all mute moments. No one talks in Up in the opening sequence. No one talks during Sarah McLachlan sings, but When Somebody Loved Me is a mute sequence. WALL-E's entire first half is mute. Because that's the way a movie can really show you its world. You don't need characters talking as long as you can just have the screen show you what it's trying to say. And Happy Feet 2 does not utilize that. And that's where I think it really cripples itself. This movie could have been better than it is by simply having more quiet moments and trying to sort of divide its humor and serious tone by having the environment speak to us more than it actually does. Again, I really like this movie more than I thought I would, but it doesn't come close to the original. And the reason why that is because the original had a serious tone. This movie also has a very serious tone, where death is always sort of an option without ever really being explored. It's always hinted, but never shown. And I like that. But I kind of wish they would have let pain, suffering, and all these other things that are the result of what this movie's trying to show us just sink in by being quiet and showing and not trying to tell what's going on. I actually think that's all I really have to say. I think that that is really the whole summary of it. Is I was trying to make a video trying to explain that the one thing this movie does wrong is it does not dwell on silence. This does not dwell on letting a person see what it is trying to show as much as tell what it's trying to tell. And that's the problem with it. So yeah, Happy Feet 2. I recommend it. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't recommend it. They would probably say it's either a waste of time or just okay. But I say, if you have any love for the original and you're willing to walk into a movie theater knowing that the movie you're about to see is not as good as the original, I say, give Happy Feet a try. Because Happy Feet 2 was a fun hour and 40 minutes that just flew by without me ever feeling really, this has got to end soon. I can't take it. It had laughs that made the entire theater laugh, and I I'm not a guy that laughs in public that much when it comes to movies, but I was smiling a whole lot, and I even chuckled a couple of times. So yeah, go see it, if only because you want to see Brad Pitt and Matt Damon act like stupid krill. I promise the next video will be closer, but I won't be going back to it. I'm going to make some sort of like video game summary of the last couple of months when I'm trying to make up my list of best games. I think I'm going to wait with my movies a little bit longer because I feel like my video game list can be less, like I can be more apologetic with that and say, well, I didn't really play everything, so I can't really give you the full scope on everything. My movie list, I nearly want to be complete with. I know that's impossible because I've not seen a whole lot of like foreign films that aren't American foreign film or British foreign films. But there are a couple of movies that I have not seen yet that I really want to see that haven't come out here yet. Of course, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, you have to wait for. I really want to see that, what is it, Marley, I don't know which order the names come in. That title has really been confusing me. The Elizabeth Olsen movie, I want to see that. Yeah, as I say, there are a couple of films I have not seen yet that I really want to see in consideration for my best films of the year list. This is the first year I really think I actually have a chance of being able to sound even remotely professional in my picks and my ideas behind that, simply because of the fact that I have seen so many more movies this year. So yeah, look for a video game summary before you get a movie one, and I'll maybe try to make some sort of review of something else I've done or seen down the line. Thank you. Talk to you later.